they are intentionally putting people in harm's way. And this relates to your first question. Of course, there is a huge challenge, and that is precisely why Israel and the IDF called on the people in the south specifically to evacuate the places where Hezbollah has put these rockets, these cruise missiles, their drone capabilities, their command and control capabilities. This is what they've strategically done in order to try and safeguard and prolong their activities.
Keir Starmer has told UK nationals in Lebanon to get out. But as we heard from Beirut Airport, it isn't easy to get out of Lebanon at the moment, and anyone considering leaving must be calculating whether Israel's recent attacks on Hezbollah are a temporary stage in a very long conflict, or if they're going to grow into a major war with Israeli troops actually entering southern Lebanon again. Let's try to answer that with Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner, who is an IDF spokesperson. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Asma.
Can you tell us what... so we know the end result is to kill the Hezbollah fighters, to target them. And clearly what has happened is some have been killed, and also many civilians have been killed too. Do you know what proportion of the 500 plus people who've died are Hezbollah and how many are civilians?
Well, actually, the goal is to restore safety and security to northern Israel. For a year now, Hezbollah has been firing relentlessly into Israel. We have evacuated, and now effectively for over a year, for almost a year, 60,000 people have been evacuated from their home, and the government instructed the military to create the conditions to restore safety and security to the people so that they can go home. So the IDF has embarked now in degrading, destroying, and taking out Hezbollah's capabilities. Of course, we realize that Hezbollah have built over the last 20 years a huge arsenal of rockets, drones, capabilities. And I woke up this morning at 6:30 here in Israel, in the Tel Aviv area, at the sound of sirens in Tel Aviv after they fired what appears to be an Iranian-made surface-to-surface missile at the Tel Aviv area. So there's a war that is currently ongoing in order to restore safety and security after a year of trying to reach that new reality through negotiations, which have not been realized in a way that can allow people to go home. So
the point is, I mean, as you say, Hezbollah are not going to stop if you ask them nicely. So therefore, you have to take them out. So the aim is to restore peace, but how you get there is by getting rid of the installations and trying to get rid of them, the commanders and the fighters. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We've seen that where they have positioned their capabilities, and over the last few days, we've distributed several videos that indicate clearly that they have built their houses around the rockets. They are intentionally putting people in harm's way. And this relates to your first question. Of course, there is a huge challenge, and that is precisely why Israel and the IDF called on the people in the south specifically to evacuate the places where Hezbollah has put these rockets, these cruise missiles, their drone capabilities, their command and control capabilities. This is what they've strategically done in order to try and safeguard and prolong their activities.
Now, and I understand that you give the warnings to, I don't know if you can't give warnings to everyone, because still, you know, women and children, we do see them. We see footage of them in hospitals. Some of them, many of them have died. Many of them have been injured. So therefore, they clearly weren't warned or couldn't get out in time. And they are the horrendous collateral damage.
And for every, this is a reality which is devastating for so many in the region. But what would you suggest we do? Hope that Hezbollah stops launching rockets, hopes that they let the people of northern Israel go back to their homes?
No.
The United Nations Security Council resolution from 2006 stipulated specifically that Hezbollah should not have weapons in the south of Lebanon, that the government of Lebanon has the responsibility to ensure that no actions, no terrorist activities can take place from the south of Lebanon. Unfortunately, that has not realized. And since 2006, Israel has been extremely concerned about how Hezbollah, which we call it perhaps a terrorist organization, and it is a designated terrorist organization by the UK and many others, has accumulated more rockets and missiles than most European countries. They are holding Lebanon effectively hostage. And now they are, and for the last year, 60,000 people out of home in the north.
Well,
and tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people today rushed again to the shelters in central Israel.
Yeah.
We have to change paradigm.
We have a few other questions I just wanted to get. I wanted to have the opportunity to ask you. This has been going on, as you say, and many of our correspondents, people getting in touch with us, the rockets have been being fired since this time around, since October the 8th, so almost a year. Why is this happening now? Why the Israeli airstrikes? Why have they started in the last week or so?
Well, the most significant change, of course, was the direction and the instructions of the government to change or include within the war goals over the last year to restore safety and security and to allow the people of Israel to go back to living in their homes. They have been, you can imagine being evacuated from your home for a year without any prospect of knowing when you'll be able to go home.
No, I understand that. I'm just wondering if they've been out of their homes for a year. Why now? Does any of this relate to the situation in Gaza? We spoke to a Middle Eastern analyst yesterday who lives in Beirut, and he was saying that this was because things were winding down in Gaza, and that Israel now feel they are able to focus more keenly on what is going on in Lebanon. Is that fair?
I would add on that. I think that there is definitely a shift from the south to the north, which is a result of Hamas's inability to operate as a terrorist organization to launch another 7th of October attack. Although we still have not restored and brought home all of the hostages, there are still 101 hostages still being held by Hamas. And there are still Hamas leaders in the Gaza Strip that are trying to instruct and conduct attacks against us. But of course, there is a shift that means that, of course, Israel and the IDF can shift its focus to the northern front to restore safety and security to the people of the north so that they can go home.
People are worried about a ground invasion. Is that likely? What does that hinge on?
Well, Israelis, of course, are worried about a ground invasion as well. It's not something we aspire for. Of course, we have a vast spectrum of operational opportunities on the table, and we will operate in order to achieve our goal of bringing home the Israelis to northern Israel so that they can get back to normal life. It can be averted. I would say absolutely there is an ability to avert that need, but we need, as the military, to be prepared for that option.
I know you're a military spokesperson, but in terms of the diplomatic side of things, of course, everyone is saying, well, neither side is going to give up. And either side would say, well, why should we? Therefore, the only way to stop this from escalating into something much, much worse is some kind of negotiated peace settlement. Over the last week or so, have any inroads been made in terms of diplomacy?
Well, as you said, I'm currently a military spokesperson in reserve duty. I mean, there was a bit of a mix-up in the introduction of me. So, of course, as a civilian in Israel, but also as a serving reservist in the IDF, we'd hope for a diplomatic solution. Unfortunately, diplomacy has not delivered the required solution with regard to bringing hostages home from Hamas or restoring the safety and security and allowing 60,000 people to go home in northern Israel. So the IDF is charged with defending the state and the sovereignty and the security of the people of Israel, of Israelis, regular people that just want to get by and get on with their lives. So I would say, I would hope that the diplomatic solution could be realized and create a new reality for the region. But unfortunately, at this stage where we are now, at the end of September, there is still conflict and war, and the war effort is moving forward. And the IDF is determined to deliver its responsibility to the people and sovereignty of Israel, Israelis that need to get back to normal life.
Peter Lerner, thank you very much for talking to us. He is speaking on behalf of the Israeli Defense Force.